We had another friend back home that he was a game warden his whole life. And finally got old enough to retire. Now this fella had stayed in the woods in northern Rhode Island his entire life. He had never even been to Providence. Nowhere. He'd just been up the woods being a game warden. And by gollies, when he retired, all of his cohorts there in the Department of Inland Fisheries and Game said we'd ought to give him paid vacation to Boston for a present. Well, now, they all thought that'd be a pretty good idea, so they took up a collection, and they got enough to send him up first class on the train out of Providence. In them days, the trains still run pretty slick down there. And they wanted everything to be first class for him. That's just how it was. So they loaded old Phil into the car, took him down to the train station, and he got out of the car and grabbed a suitcase, and just about time he did, here come one of them fellas with a red hat, took it right out of his hand. Says, "What you doing with my suitcase?" "Well," he said, "you're going first class." He said, "We take care of the baggage. You don't have to do anything. This is a first class trip all the way." Well, by golly, he says, that's good. And he got into the train, and they let him right into a first class Pullman car, set him in a plush seat, and brung him some lemonade. And the train took out for Boston. He got up there, and they landed at the Essex Street station. There was a taxi cab waiting for him. Grabbed his suitcase again. He said, "First class, mister, you don't have to touch nothing." Loaded him into the taxi cab, drug him down to the Tourain hotel. Well, in he went. Another one of them fellas in a red hat come, grabbed his suitcase, took it right up to the desk for him. He says, "Everything's first class here." Well, the only thing was they had never made a reservation for him, and there was a convention going on in Boston, and by the gollies, there wasn't a room to be had, and the desk clerk told him that, and Phil said, "Well, now listen here," and he told him the story of how all his friends had got together to send him on that vacation. Well, the desk clerk says, "I'll tell you what you do. You go in the dining room and you have your supper on us, and I'll call around and see if I can't find you some sort of a room somewhere." Well, Phil says, "By golly, I think, yeah, that'd be nice." And then he went and sat down. Along come this maitre d' fella and turned his cup over in his glass and fluffed the cushion in his chair and poured him a glass of water and said, "Head waiter will be right with you." He said, "This is a first class place." Well, Phil said, "Sounds good to me." Next thing you know, the waiter was there, and he said, "What will you have?" "Well," he said, "I'll tell you what, I'd like a pork chop and a plate full of beans." Well, he said, "Look, this is a first class hotel. Yeah, we don't do things like that." He said, "We have to start off with some soup." And he said, I recommend the Boston cream chowder." He said, "Now, the Tourain Hotel is world famous for Boston cream chowder." And Phil says, "I don't want no cream chowder. I want some pork chops and beans." "Oh, well," he said, "listen, you've got to try this." And no, he said, "I don't want none." Well, he called the maitre d' back. He says, "I can't believe it. This fella doesn't want any of our world-famous Boston cream chowder." And the maitre d' says to him, "Listen, you've got to try this. Everyone in the world comes here special for this Boston cream chowder." Phil says, "I don't want none of that crap. I want pork chops and beans." Well, he said, "Hell, this guy don't know nothing. Give him his pork chop and beans." And he got his supper over. Went out into the lobby, and the desk clerk says, "Boys, have we got some good news for you?" Said Barney Simmons, up in room 647, said he's been here for about 3 weeks, sicker than hell, and he said he died today. And there's a girl up there, a chambermaid, get in the room cleaned up and ready, and you can have his room. Well, my golly, he says, "No, that's just great." He said, "I'm really tickled about that." So about 10 minutes, they told him, "Go ahead up He grabbed his suitcase and no sir, a bellhop took it right out of his hand, said first class all the way, took it up and opened the room for him, pulled down the bed and opened the window just to might, poured him a glass of water and says, is there anything else I can do for you? Phil says, you can get out of here and let me get some sleep. Well, he said, okay, we'll see you in the morning. And no sooner Phil got into his skivvies and under the covers, and a knock came on the door, and he didn't know what was happening next. He says, come on in, and here come this girl, all dressed up white. Well, says, what's going on here? Well, she yanked them covers right down, and she begun to give him rub down. Took some talcum powder, slapped it on him, began to rub back and forth and go it, you know. Well, you see, she didn't know that Barney died. About the last thing she done was roll Phil up into a ball and give him an enema. Well, a couple of weeks later he's back home. The boy says, well, how did you enjoy your trip to Boston? Well, he said, I'll tell you, I had the time of my life, and everything was just like you said, it was first class. But he says, I'm going to tell you one damn thing. If you ever go to that Tourain hotel and they offer you some cream chowder, you take it, because you're going to get it one way or another.